Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, let's get ready to crowdfund. Yes, I have to do that because apparently tonight is WrestleMania, and who in their right mind would schedule a podcast against something 3 million people in the country are going to be watching right now? That would be me. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com, where pop culture gets blasted, and we are talking once more tonight about independent comics that get crowdfunded to great acclaim and don't make it into your retail stores maybe necessarily, but definitely have some huge fan followings. And none of them are any bigger, except maybe for that green guy. He's getting also top billing, but none of them are any bigger than the six-gun toting gorilla, Six Gun Gorilla, and his creator, Brian Christgau. Brian, how are you tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
I am digging that. I'm digging that Famous Monsters shirt, man. You a big Monster fan from way back?
Oh, I'm like a monster kid to the core. I caught on to like the very, very tail end of like the monster culture boom. You know, like in the 70s when it was like the very tail end where you could still get like the Aurora Monster model kits.
Oh, yeah.
Famous Monsters of Filmland was still being printed. There was another magazine called Castle of Frankenstein I was very fond of, which unfortunately got canceled. And I had an older brother that read comics, and Marvel, of course, was doing their monster comics, Tomb of Dracula, Monster of Frankenstein, Werewolf by Night, Morbius the Living Vampire, which was the thing that actually originally drew me to comic books, were the monster comics. You know, I saw them on the spinner racks and was like, Frankenstein, Dracula,
Yeah.
Werewolf, oh hell yeah.
And then when they did the black and white magazine versions of them, where it was even gorier, and they could do that was mature comics before there were mature comics.
Yep.
I think.
Absolutely. And those are incredibly beautifully drawn.
They are.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful black and white art. Yeah, like Where Creatures Roam. I'm trying to remember. I'm blanking out on like the major one. The major Marvel Monster magazine. That was they did a Tomb of Dracula, I know, or they did a Dracula magazine, but they also did one that was just like monsters in general. If anybody in the chat can like remind me what the heck that was called.
I'll have to Google that because when I think of the ones that I had, I was a teenager at the time, and I remember the Punisher, and he got to be a lot more grittier in those magazines than in the comics. And I remember Howard the Duck, and Howard the Duck always stuck with me because it was like, Monsters Unleashed. Look at that with Pop Culture Avengers.
There it is. That's
on
what I'm
the
talking
ball.
about.
But yeah, Howard the Duck smacked me in the face because I got to like the end of the first issue, and like suddenly he's in bed with Beverly, and it's like there was boobage. I was like,
yes.
I know. I was like 14. I'm like, can they do that?
Yeah, they could, because the black and white magazines weren't subject to the comics code. And it's interesting you mentioned that, because that drove the creator of Howard the Duck, Steve Gerber, crazy. He did not like that at all. He wanted that aspect of their relationship to be a mystery. And Howard the Duck's one of those interesting characters where nobody could really write that character accurately or well except Steve Gerber, because Howard was really sort of like his alter ego.
Okay.
You know, there's certain characters that like anybody can write. Not anybody, but there's certain characters that lend themselves more easily to other authors playing with them. Conan the Barbarian, Tarzan the Ape Man, Zorro, a lot of those characters. But Howard was so idiosyncratic that yeah, like that the Howard the Duck magazine. I think that only lasted maybe about 8 issues.
Yeah, it didn't run
I,
long.
I would know because I have them all.
Well, yeah, of course. Um, and they did they did that one Man God. I remember that, which was just an adaptation of Gladiator. Uh, by and the author's name escapes me now, and I shouldn't because I use it all the time. But and then they did one. They did one that was just like a collection of science fiction weird stories, and it might have even been a backup in Man God. Uh, the one that I can remember was Ecce Homo, where it's the guy who invents a time machine, and he goes back to prove that everything that happened to Christ really happened to Christ, and he finds out he didn't exist, so he becomes the character and takes on the mission all the way down to on the
Getting
cross. And
crucified, right?
yeah, and the last words he says were instead of Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, was misinterpreted. He was saying, a lie, it's all been a lie.
Oh wow.
And I was like,
Yeah, you couldn't get. Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, you can imagine how many heads that would make explode today.
oh, I know. It was like the most blasphemous thing. I'm like,
But
am I going to get struck for reading this?
but you see, that's the thing. Back then, comic books, all the way up until just a few years ago, were a creative bubble. That's to say, the only people that knew what was going on were the people that were making the comics and the people that were reading them. So they could get away with murder. And because nobody was paying attention, Hollywood wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
The censorship advocates, no, they were Marvel, DC, all those comic book publishers. Aside from there was that little boom in the speculator market in the '90s, which when it crashed almost took the entire industry with it.
Yeah.
But regular people just had no clue
We, we had
whatsoever.
we had some television movies / series about your top tier flagship characters: the Hulk, Wonder Woman, the George Reeves Superman, Adam West Batman.
Yep.
But there wasn't this, come to the movie every 3 months for a new comic book blockbuster kind of deal. Nobody knew, nobody cared.
Yeah.
And yeah, Pop Culture Avenger says yeah, I really enjoyed the eerie and creepy mags, which were published by Warren,
Yep.
which published Vampirella, and I will go out on a limb and I will die on this hill that no publisher to date has been able to do Vampirella nearly as well as those original black and white Warren magazines.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. Yeah, and I'm sorry, but I just had to, I had to represent here.
That is, how much is that? Is that like 80 pounds or something?
No, no, no.
Oh,
It's a nice light frame, but a friend of mine knows that I'm a big Warren fiend and picked this up for me at a convention. So
I did not have the depth perspective when you held that up. I thought that was an oversized omnibus.
Oh man, that would be really oversized.
I was like, that's a damn coffee table book.
Oh yeah, it would weigh like a ton. Oh my god.
And
And
I
I
think,
love those omnibus editions. They're just such a treat.
and I think that Vampirella and Eerie and Creepy, Uncle Eerie and Cousin Creepy, interacted at some
They
point,
did.
but it might have just been at an advertising level. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't think they. It's not like they had like a creepy eerie crossover. I mean, somebody
No,
in the peanut gallery, by all means, edify us if we're wrong about that. But yeah, I remember those very very well. And then there were the rip-offs of the Warren magazines, which were, oh god, it was called Eerie Press.
oh, that's definitely rip off.
Right?
Yeah,
And these were really, really trashy, and they had the busiest covers you've ever seen in your life. Completely outrageous. They're fascinating. I actually have a hardcover edition of some of these. And so on the cover, you'd have like a werewolf with like a wooden stake in its heart, and like a vampire like doing witchcraft or something like that, and a woman like strapped to a slab with like ants crawling all over her, and they were just completely insane and completely outrageous.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
I had not seen those. One that I do remember, and I'm surprised that nobody's really doing anything with it because I think it would be a really fun concept to play with. Same publisher, Warren, was The Rook.
Oh yeah, yeah. Howard Chaykin, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
was
the Rook was great.
and I didn't know. I was too young to get what a rook was until I started playing chess in high school. I'm like, oh,
Me too. Me too.
he can swap places
Yeah.
because he could castle with somebody else in the universe, and he could just pop. He was a teleporter.
Yep.
But he had these like a Han Solo treasure hunt kind of deal going on all the time. I did
Yep.
heck of a fun thing to do. A Pop Culture Avenger thought that was an artist edition book too. So you
Oh my
brought it on
God.
camera at just the right front-facing thing.
Oh man.
And if you're at Harris Publications, you've just seen two instances that there's demand for such a thing if you were to put one out.
Right. Well, there'd be somebody, but you can imagine how much that would cost. But there's always a collector's market,
Oh yeah.
and my goodness, the omnibus editions are fantastic. They cost a pretty penny, of course, but there's some of them you just gotta have.
Yeah, my local comic shop guy, Dave Dyer, Cosmic Comics, Belleville, Illinois, is huge into the famous monsters of Filmland. He's got he's got a mannequin with like the Halloween Frankenstein rubber band face on there. He sells the old Halloween Town costumes in the box.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you remember
Oh, I
those.
had those, man. Like the very first in kindergarten, my costume was the creature from the Black Lagoon, and it was one of those masks.
Yes.
But the costume was so whack that my mother was like, I could do better than that, and she sewed me a full body Gilman costume.
Oh, that's a good mom.
And put like a cowl on the back of the mask and everything, and I still have that somewhere in a trunk upstairs.
Still look at it and say, God, I wish I could get in that.
Yeah, yeah. Seriously, there's that's the thing. If you're a monster kid, you're a monster kid for life.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's got the cardboard cutout stand up of Vampirella doing the whole, her arms are out kind of thing. He's got a spinner rack with famous monsters of Filmland and Fangoria and issues like that in it. So,
oh, God bless him. God bless him. I've got a pretty hefty Fangoria collection. Actually, got sent to the principal for bringing issue number 2, I think it was, which had Lucio Fulci's Zombie on the cover.
Oh man.
Because I would always bring my monster magazines and my comics and stuff to read before class. And my art teacher saw the cover, of this zombie with a hollow eye socket with worms crawling out of it. Although I think what really got her were like the bold letters, "We are going to eat you." She was like, "Go to the principal's office." And so I did, and the principal just sort of shrugged and arranged an appointment for me with the guidance counselor. And she asked me, Brian, couldn't you at least try to be more normal?
Yes.
It's like, oh, honey, you just really, really don't understand my condition at all.
One of these days, you will go back to the high school to do one of those career day presentations to the art class, and you're going to bring up Six Gun Gorilla and say, "This is what not being normal can get you."
Yeah. Well,
speaking of whom, we should probably start talking about that a little bit.
If you feel like it, whenever I go on a stream, I go on to pimp my comics, but it's always great just to shoot the shit and
Absolutely,
and just have fun. Yep, that's the sign up page right there.
And everybody, you know what to do here. You come in here, you go blast. Well, you don't do this one. You put your own in there. I do my Gmail address because it's just a little bit faster. And I say I agree, and I sign up, and now you're in. That's all you got to do. except you got to confirm it if it's your first time ever. So
Right.
make sure you confirm, check your mail, and then say, yes, I really got it. Yes, I really meant to. And normally when you do this for a campaign, it means that you're going to get a little something that people who start on day one don't get. And Brian, in this case, can you tell us what that's going to be?
I have no idea. It's going to be something cool. It's going to be something cool. Mind you, I had set this page up like months ago. Unfortunately, my artist on this, the great Preston Acevedo, the creator of Doc Salem, was just too swamped with work and prior engagements to start work on this, and so it actually expired, and I had to set up a new page. So and I didn't get I didn't grab the addresses or the emails of all the people that had signed up. So I'm going to make sure that whatever was going to go in there, like a free trading card, everybody's going to get that, but also people that sign up for this are also going to get something different. We're going to have, you see, I normally don't do swag. Most of my campaigns, really, well, this is the third. My previous two campaigns, I always try to stick with McDonald's menu, right? Burger and fries. Like just the comic books. You can get them. I was selling the first 6 issues in a trade paperback. I'm not doing that this time because it's too confusing. I find that people, when they would go on the website, they were like, okay, well, why is one comic $25 and the other one is like 10 or 15? It's like, well, because the one is like 6 issues, but
Yes.
but people are going to be able, because this is going to be for the 8th issue, which is called Cemetery Without Crosses, but people are going to be able to get the previous 7 issues a la carte. That's to say, if you just want to get issue 1, you can just get issue 1, or if you just want to get the first 2 or 3 issues, you can do that. Or they'll be able to get all 8 issues at a discounted price.
Yeah, I think the add-on capability that now Kickstarter is doing the same thing is going to be a paradigm shift in the crowdfunding setup, because it used to be that you'd see people come up with every permutation possible. So there's like 5 times 4 times 3 times 2. That's how many tiers were going to be there, and now it's just like, here's the book, and then you say, give me the book, and then you're like, hey, you can also get this or this or this and this and this. Just throw in what you want. Make it a shopping cart.
Right. That's the plan for this campaign, and this is going to be a living campaign, which is to say that as the campaign progresses, I'm going to be adding more and more stuff. There is going to be bookmarks. There's going to be patches. There's going to be stickers. There's going to be a figurine.
Ooh.
Yes, and actually, if you can check out the preview page, because I haven't finished actually building the campaign. It's not live yet. The campaign page is still under construction, but I am adding more and more stuff, and people aren't going to have to worry about, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't back this book now. Maybe I should wait until there's more stuff. You don't have to worry about that, because everybody's going to get most of that stuff. The figurine, that's going to be very limited edition, but people are going to be able to get that as an add-on, or be able to purchase it on its own.
Are you talking like a 3D print now, or are you going through an action figure company?
No, I'm going through my friend, the infamous Blue Muppet, George Peter Gatsis.
I send people to him all the time to do 3D prints. So yes, you picked a good person there.
I didn't pick him. He picked me. He actually just volunteered. And I was just like, sure. Like, heck yeah. And what's going to be crazy about this figurine is that it's going to be modular. That's to say, the hat's going to come off, the poncho's going to come off. That
He's
way
going to do that whole magnet thing, isn't he?
Dude, The arms are going to be attached with magnets, and you're going to be able to swap out the arms. So the standard set of arms are going to be the big gorilla arms holding the gigantic 6 guns, right?
Right.
But you're going to be able to pop those off and attach the arms that are holding a Gatling gun. So that's George.
That's George.
The man's a genius, man.
He
And
is
everybody go
amazing.
He is. And everybody go check out his campaign for Joe King 2 right now.
Yes.
Because the man is on fire.
I have actually signed up for the campaign, purchased into it, and I'm going to get like a 2-foot 3D print of the spaceship that's in his story. He showed that thing to me like a year ago when he was still talking about setting up. I was like, I'm signing up on the mailing list now. I want that ship.
Yeah, man.
I haven't read the first book, and I want that ship.
Yeah. His books are really really wonderful. Well, I mean, I've only seen the one that he's put out, and it's really wonderful. But that's the thing. It's like, I like to stick to the McDonald's menu, but now it's Swag Wars. Swag Wars is on, like Donkey Kong.
Well, and you're in a position now where it makes sense for you to start playing in that arena. I tell a lot of people who do their first campaign, like they T-shirts and hats. I'm like, dude, nobody knows your character enough to care about it. No one loves it as much as you do.
Right.
If you want to put anything on your first campaign other than the book, put in stickers and put in stickers of the logo, not of your character.
Right.
Because that people can read the logo, people can Google the logo, and find out. 6-gun gorilla. What's that? I'll find out when I get home.
Right.
What are you digging out there now?
Oh, well, some of the swag that comes out with comics these days. The guy that really stepped the swag thing up another level is Phil Diaz, of Los Bros Diaz fame. Here I am pimping other people's books.
Hey,
the Lost Pages. He just went completely overboard. I'm just using this as like an example. Bookmarks, masks. This is like a 3D or like a box head.
A blockhead, yeah.
A blockhead. And then like these beautiful trading cards. Oh, they're falling out. Oh god.
You held it upside down.
Yeah, and I really hate people like Phil because they force me to take things to another level. It's like, damn you. It's like my book now when I just get a book in the mail and it's just a book, I'm like, where's all that extra crap?
I want my sticker at least. At the very least.
Sticker at least, right? So
I've got my back of my laptop case here is loaded. I'm going to start working on the back of my bigger monitor now and covering it up. Hey, Pops is in the chat. Pops Van Zandt, welcome.
What up, Pop? What up, Pops? Good to see you, man. And my friend Shay from Red Valkyrie.
Patches.
It's actually in the campaign page. It says, we're going to be doing this, we're going to be doing that, we're going to be doing patches because Shay needs her patch, yes. Right? So
Shay needs patches. She's the patch girl of comics.
Yeah. So and here's the thing: when you have people that are stepping things up and taking it to another level, it's intensely annoying for their fellow creators, people like me. But who benefits? The backers benefit.
Yes, they do.
Right? The readers benefit.
Well,
and that's what it's all about.
I keep pushing my other projects. I don't have any crowdfunding projects. My projects are I spend other people's money, Brian.
Okay.
I basically get you guys on the show and say you should do this, and then I'll end up buying it from it. But there's two things that people haven't done, and especially when you see all the stuff they are doing, and you want to come up with something new. I'm like, well, nobody's done color forms yet.
Right.
So
right.
If you did like color forms of your characters in a little battle scene, and you could like put them on there and take them off and put them aside.
Oh man, the guy who needs to do that, he hasn't launched this campaign yet, is Mark Marianelli, aka 6am Comics. He did these beautiful little illustrations of like everybody's characters.
Everyone.
This is like the Guernica of like the indie comics scene. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so, like for the last campaign, I was like, dude, can I like take this illustration and turn it into a sticker? He was like, heck yeah.
I think everybody's
And
done that.
yeah, everybody, yeah. And now everybody's done that, which is awesome. Um, but what was I gonna say? But yeah, no. I keep thinking like, dude, you should release that illustration with all of his illustrations just thrown on there of everybody's characters as like a color form set.
That would be fun.
That would be really fun.
And the other thing, because you held up the trading card set, and I keep seeing, people saying, hey, we're going to release 9 trading cards or 6 trading cards. And I keep telling everybody, no one's doing it right. No one is doing trading cards right. You're talking about all the titles that I grew up reading. I think we're probably falling into the same age group here. You remember the 90s Fleer cards, how you'd chase them down. And you'd put them in your 9 card holders and you hold a whole book of them. And when one got filled, it was one big battle scene with 9 characters. I said,
right.
You need 9 separate campaigns run by 9 separate people and 9 separate characters and one artist. And you all get together and you just say, hey, Preston Acevedo, would you draw like all 9 of our characters in a battle on a grid? And then you all put your own card in your own campaign and say, hey, by the way, this makes a puzzle picture if you get the other 8 cards from these campaigns.
Oh, that's
now
genius.
Everyone's pushing everybody else's campaign.
Right. That's genius, man. I love that.
Because 1,000 people are going to get in on Six Gun Gorilla because everyone loves Six Gun Gorilla. But, maybe they won't get into,
some of the smaller books or some of the people.
Orange Ink Pen guy, yeah.
Right. Because right now the scene is very busy. There's a lot of new creators, which is great. Yeah. One of the things that I try to do that a lot of my friends in the scene try to do is nurture new talent. Actually, I shouldn't include myself in that book. I've been kind of off doing my own stuff, but I know quite a few people like Preston, like Simon Simpoitier, who really will reach out to people that have campaigns that maybe nobody's seeing their book,
exactly,
or they're just starting, or maybe their art isn't like up to snuff just yet, but you could tell there's potential. They're going to get there eventually. Because if you look at the mainstream comic book industry, it's very backstabby.
Yes.
And it's getting, the pie is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So the infighting and the backstabbing and the cutthroat behavior just gets more and more vicious, more and more awful. And in this scene, this indie comics creator scene, we are the exact opposite.
Everyone's helping everybody.
Everybody's helping everybody.
It's weird. People in the chat get tired of hearing this because I use this example all the freaking time. But I'm like, can you imagine being, in the DC offices in the late '60s, Julie Schwartz's office, whatever floor he was on, and the phone rings and he picks it up and it's like, Julie, it's Stan. Hey, I'm getting ready to launch this Spider-Man thing, and we were just wondering if we could get some tips on how to. Hello.
Julie Schwartz was evidently a real sweetheart. I got to know Denny O'Neil a little bit, and he he's like one of those guys you never hear anything but awesome things. Like he was very very dearly loved. And wasn't he the guy who said like, hey, if you put a gorilla on the cover of a comic, it'll sell better?
There were three things that sold comics.
Yeah.
And this was it was a gorilla,
yeah,
a woman crying,
yeah,
something purple.
Yeah, I think I remember that really.
And
I forgot that third one, yeah.
And that's why in Alan Moore's Promethea comics, you always saw in the background the billboard for this comic book company called I think it was Weeping Gorilla Comics, and it was always just this purple female gorilla crying with a thought bubble about some like romance comics, like why won't they ever love me for me, or how will I ever become a better person?
Yeah.
Because it was like everything would sell.
Yep. And yet, so much creativity came out of those comics.
Yes.
And my God, the comic books that are coming out from the mainstream right now, they just lack sincerity. They lack heart.
Well, they're very
And
cynical about the business now. They know they're just keeping an IP alive.
that's it. That's it. And the comic books are promotional material for the movies
Yes.
and the Funko Pop heads. Fuck, I hate those things, those Funko Pop heads.
They made
Oh,
everything. Everything can be a Funko Pop head now.
I
Uh,
know. I know. And but that's where the money is. And people eat those things up. You and I come from an era where being a geek, you paid a very, very hefty social toll for that. And now it's actually cool,
yeah.
which is surreal. If you told me when I was 15 years old that there'd be a TV show called the Big Bang Theory that would make being a geek cool, or that there would be a TV show called Stranger Things that would like make Dungeons and Dragons cool,
Yes.
I would have told you that you were like high on mushrooms or something.
It's never going to be cool. Well, it's fun. I'd watch it, but it's not cool.
Right,
Uh, but
right.
but yeah, the Funko Pops. I have 3 Funko Pops at home, and I would bet anything that my 3 Funko Pops are unlike any other Funko Pop anyone else has ever bought,
Uh-huh.
because they're opened. Um,
Oh, right. Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah.
you see, they're
Any
just
toys
on the shelf.
toys are meant because sometimes I'll get because I don't buy a lot of toys because I have already like way too many. First of all, I can't afford to spend money on that sort of stuff right now. But I've got boxes and boxes and boxes, especially of monster toys. So I'll only buy things when I feel like, oh, I've gotta have that. That's my rule. Is I'll only buy it if like I absolutely have to. Like this is a very nice Frankenstein monster right here.
Oh,
It's
sweet.
one of the Mezcos. This is just stuff I have hanging out on my desk. In my workspace. I paid what about 40 for this bub from Day of the Dead.
Nice.
his, his little diorama's falling down and everything. But it's the Funko Pop heads. I mean, I don't see the appeal, and it's
They don't even
depressing.
pop.
It's depressing going to like a convention back when we still could go to conventions, and just seeing like the vendors areas, and there's just like walls and walls and walls of these things. But
Yeah.
people are the vendors are going to sell what sells, obviously.
Yeah. I went to conventions in the 80s in Chicago, and I've gone again to conventions in St. Louis, in the past, 5 years. And you know what's missing?
Yeah.
There's no DC booth. There's no Marvel booth. They go to San Diego, they go to C2E2, and they go to New York. And other than that, you will not see your creators anywhere. You used to be able to just walk up to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the other thing, and that I think is so incredibly special about this scene that I am blessed and privileged to be part of. Um, our readers, our fans, our backers get direct access to us.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't get their book, and this always happens, right? You sell like 400 books, guess what? At least 2 or 3 of them, maybe more, are either never going to reach their destination or get like arrive like all jacked up and beat to hell.
It's a nightmare to think about that's going to happen,
Yeah,
especially for a guy who does distribution of these books. I'm like, please let them all get there in good shape.
exactly. But if that happens, the customer, the backer, is going to be able to contact me directly and be like, dude, I didn't get my book. Or, oh, the worst was when somebody got a empty Gemini mailer.
Oh, Oops.
And I didn't mail that thing empty. I guarantee you, okay? Somebody must have reached in or cut it open and just pulled the book out, right? But imagine it's just oh, cool, I got my comic. Wait, this feels a little light. And then, and then opening it up and there's nothing in there. Oh! But,
Yeah, that would definitely suck.
oh my God. Right? So when something like that happens, I can be my apologies. I'll rectify the situation. I'll send you a new book, and I'll throw in a little something extra.
Yeah.
Like a convention flyer or a floppy or something to compensate you for the wait.
For the disappointment, sure.
Yeah, and that feels good. And it's people can't do that with Dan Slott. They can't do that with Donny Cates. They can't do that with Mark Waid, certainly.
Well, that's
right?
because their customer is the publisher, and the
Exactly.
publisher, their customer is Diamond, and then Diamond, their customer is the retailer, and the retailer is the one who gets stuck with everything. But
well,
if it's
not
to the retailer,
Diamond any longer, but yeah.
Oh man, I don't know what's going to happen to Diamond now. I mean, they're like, well, we can still get them from Penguin and distribute them. Like, yeah, and the retailer can go to Penguin and get them for no shipping charge.
Yes,
So
they're done. They're done.
It's over.
It's over. And I always knew that eventually it would, because everybody hates them. And it's just when you've built up that kind of antipathy, guess what? People are going to be happy to say sayonara.
Yes. The only comic book distributor that's going to be standing at the end of all this is going to be Critical Blast Logistics.
There you go.
Because we're going to start calling comic shops. Once we start sending out all these crowdfunded books that come into us, largely overseas stuff that we're going to ship cheaper.
There it is, man.
Dude.
There it is.
Dude, if you haven't seen The Company Men from Kemosabe, that's coming from Australia. The shipping on that is $12. Because he's drop shipping it here and we're distributing it rather than one book at a time from Australia when it would be 25. So
we've been talking about this, in the back rooms and the chats and everything for ages. I hate having to charge somebody in Australia $25 for shipping.
Yeah, we're working on that too. We're working on the other direction. I just got to get agents in place and it'll be the same thing. It'll be hey, they're all boxed up, drop shipped them off. Here's the money, print the labels, put them on and mail them local. And, here's some money for your doing your job.
Yeah, $12? It's just okay, that's a little ouch, but it's not so big of an ouch that I'm going to be oh, I can't afford to back this.
Yeah, exactly. When it costs more than the book, that's when you really have to opt out.
Yeah. All of us are just annoyed by that. And, dude, if you could pull that off, you will be a saint in this community, let me tell you.
And the other part of that is, that when I get the drop shipments, I'm saying, overship because, hey, trucks are going to run over books. I'm going to have to replace them. But also, I'm going to call up comic shops and say, hey, I've got excess copies here in stock of The Company Men and Six Gun Gorilla and whatever have you here. And you can buy them directly from us for your store and put them on shelves. And as much as we all say that retailers are done and we're bypassing the shelves, what creator out there among crowdfunding would not want to see their book on the shelf in a comic shop next to Superman and Spider-Man? And they'll be able to get them all in one box, one shipping charge for as many books of different titles as you want. And that's called distributing.
Beautiful. And yeah, that is part of the dream, is seeing your book on the shelf, playing with the big boys. And it's frustrating. Well, I don't know if I'd say that it's that frustrating, but there's definitely a feeling of injustice that our books, by and large, would blow their books off the shelves.
Yeah, if they could just be seen next to each other so that the choice could be made, they definitely would, because the quality in crowdfunding is insane.
It is.
And speaking of quality, Six Gun Gorilla has been one of these books that's always visually appealing to me every time I see it. By the way, before I go any further, Pop Culture Avenger wants to know what the two movie posters are behind you.
The one on the right is The Raven by Roger Corman, and the one next to it is Night Train to Terror,
Ooh.
which is really obscure and it's a little bit of a non sequitur. But I was on a stream where somebody went, "Is that a Night Train to Terror poster behind you?" I was like, "No." No, there's no way that you recognize that. It turned out that he knew the guy that is probably the world's only Night Train to Terror, like, super fan. And so he'd seen that poster, like, in his friend's house. And so he just, like, recognized it, but it, like, completely discombobulated me for the rest of the stream.
I'm not cool anymore. Somebody recognizes my very esoteric.
Well, that was a gift. In my defense, that was a gift from a fellow horror fiend, a very good friend of mine. But
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I need to get some background in here on this gorilla because I don't know anything about him. I don't know why he's got 6 guns. Are 6 guns on it? I said 6 guns. He's got 2 guns. I don't know if it's in Old West or if he's in the far future because pictures kind of give me different opinions. So elevator pitch me the 6-gun gorilla.
A very big ape with very big guns, blowing very big holes in very bad people.
I like it.
It's a revenge western with a gorilla. And it is a western. It is set in the Old West, but it starts in the Congo, where a great white hunter type, capital G, capital W, capital H, is going on safari. And he comes across a troop of gorillas, and he blasts them to ribbons. And so while his native guides are hacking up the bodies for trophies and for bushmeat, they turn over one of the females and they find a little baby gorilla clinging to its mother's breast. And so the Great White Hunter is like, like an Alan Quartermain kind of a guy. He's like, oh, like not everybody's got one of these, right? Yeah. So he takes it with him. He's on his voyage back to England. He is having a card game with a certain Professor Malloy. Now, Professor Malloy, the only thing that Professor Malloy is a professor of is bullshit. He's a carnival barker. He sees this guy for the mark that he is. And what happens is he's traveling with he's an Irish gentleman, in his middle age. And he has a little 8-year-old daughter. And she sees, like, the little baby gorilla in the cage, and she's just like, goes up to her father and, tugs on his jacket and says, Daddy, can I have him? And he can't say no to his little girl.
Gotcha.
And so he cheats at cards and wins the baby gorilla. Fast forward about 16 years. And Professor Malloy's Circus of Frontier Wonders is touring in the south of the Old West, and Kumba, that's the name of our hero, of our 6-gun gorilla. Being part of a circus family, everybody has to learn a craft. Everybody has to learn how to do something. Abigail, his human big sister, she's all grown up now, and she's a trick horse rider, right? And so she's like a equestrian master who can ride on horseback, standing on her feet and jumping through flaming hoops and that kind of a thing. Kumba is taught how to be a trick shot artist. Now, being that he's a gorilla, of course, he has gigantic hands. Well, they're going to need gigantic guns to fill those gigantic hands. And so they handcraft these, like, hand howitzers. That are like pistols that are basically the size of like a small howitzer cannon from the Civil War. And his act involves, like, yeah, he's shooting plates out of the air, but then they're launching beer kegs and they're exploding because, of course, he's shooting these gigantic bullets at him.
Sure.
And he's an absolute sensation. Then a person falls into their life by the name of Giuliano Schmidt, who is a immigrant from Europe and also a Union spy. He's running from a gang of vicious cutthroat killers led by a particularly sadistic fellow named Gravesend. He gets wounded in a fight. He stows away on their cargo wagon. They take care of him. He heals up. He leaves. But then Gravesend and his gang of killers exact a terrible, terrible vengeance on Kumba's circus family. And so he had his tribe, his troop as they're called, his guerrilla troop, his guerrilla family completely massacred, and then he sees his adoptive human father murdered in front of his eyes, and there's nothing he can do about it because he's in a cage as part of his act.
Yeah.
And he snaps and goes on the vengeance trail to find this guy and his men, and then of course that leads to a much bigger, much grander adventure. That is, I don't want to give away any spoilers. But
No, don't give away the store.
It's pure pulp goodness. I'm a real big fan of the old pulps, especially Edgar Rice Burroughs, especially Robert E. Howard. And everything is, so many comics these days, they're always winking at you. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
They're afraid to take themselves seriously. And so I thought I wanted to play this straight. And it's paid off. People absolutely love it.
Well,
and I couldn't be more grateful. Couldn't be
and
more
it's one of
grateful
those
for
things. And he's not a talking gorilla, and I don't even think he has word bubbles of any kind.
No, he doesn't. And in one issue, in issue 7, for the first time, you get a peek inside his head of what he's thinking.
Okay.
In one scene.
Well, what I've noticed is, and you've been in comics long enough to see this happen. People will get the same idea roughly around the same time. And whether you can say, somebody's copying somebody else, well, maybe they are, maybe they aren't, maybe they have a different idea what to do with it. But
oh boy,
in the wake of Six Gun Gorilla, and I'll go ahead and say, hey, before Six Gun Gorilla, there was Monsieur Mala and his machine gun running around with the Brotherhood of Evil. But you've got everyone's talking about AR-15 orangutan,
which was created by Mo Biggs to troll me, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what that did was drag out this other guy who came on my show with his book, El Crudo. He's been publishing for a while too, which is an orangutan in Vietnam. He was trained
sold.
Yeah, exactly.
Ching, sold.
He's 4 issues into his story too now.
No kidding.
And it's some really fun stuff. And it's like, here's this orangutan. He's been trained. He was part of a army experiment where they were training like other primates or other apes rather,
right,
to be infiltrating guerrilla warfare, so to speak.
Right. Spec ops. Yeah.
And I said, and I jumped in. I was like, ooh, he should have like 7 other brothers in the unit. And he stopped saying, he does have. There are 7 others. I'm like, oh, is the unit called the Prime 8? And he's like, no. I was like, wasted opportunity.
Seriously? Oh my God, dude! That's gonna just fell into his lap.
Yeah, but the El Crudo's like he's in Vietnam, and sometimes he's leaning against a tree smoking something.
Yeah. So the guy got to take the edge off somehow.
Yeah, but he's just like a Vietnam soldier. He just happened to be an orangutan.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, sometimes I get a little confusion over people are like, 6 Gun Gorilla, what, he has 6 guns? It's like, no. Guns were referred to as 6 guns because they had 6 chambers.
Yes.
And I got a Colt Peacemaker
That's why Jimmy Stewart was the 6-shooter.
Right. Like this is just a model,
Yes, Pop
non-firing.
Culture. Yes, Pop Culture Avenger. There will be back issues available on a new campaign.
Yes, you're going to be
As
able to
that-
get the entire series. Let me see. I'm a little bit
Oh, look at
rusty.
this. Look at him go. Bang! There goes a toe.
Well, that's why in the Old West they generally only loaded 5 bullets and had the empty chamber right where the hammer is, because sometimes you could get this caught on something and it would just come down and bang, blow your toe off or something. But yeah, that's why they're called 6 guns, is because they fire 6 bullets.
Yep. That's well, and I almost said he carried 6 guns earlier because I was just like stumbling over my words. But I knew.
No, that's all good. That's all good. Yeah, no worries, man. No worries.
So he's in the Old West, but this image here, this is more along the lines of like a heavy metal cover.
Yeah.
Where he's definitely in a future alien setting. Is that part of the story, or is that just like concept art?
That's going to be a special variant cover. I never liked the idea of doing variant covers because it seemed to me like double dipping. At the same time, the backers want variant covers.
Yeah.
And so what happened with Preston was he was going to paint the cover for this issue. And I'm the kind of guy where, if you're working with a really great artist, well, if you're just working with an artist that's competent, and Preston, of course, is just absolutely incredible. He's somebody whose talent is continually growing. He's getting now to like a Simon Bisley level, very Frazetta-like. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? Right? Because I could come up with some ideas for the cover. I've got a bunch of them that haven't been used yet. But what do you feel like doing? Because I always want to make sure that the artist that I'm working with is happy and that they're passionate about what they're doing. That it's not something that they're just going to phone in, because the comic's going to be that much better. But yeah, I'm giving you the long version of the story. Basically, somebody this cover is a parody of the cover to the single version of Stranger in a Strange Land by Iron Maiden.
Yes, the one with the Batman on the corner and the Doctor Who thing on the corner and the Easter eggs all over the place. Yes.
Yeah. And this is also loaded with Easter eggs. As a matter of fact, you can see Lit Devil all the way on the left.
I do see him there.
There's Preston in the middle, right there, as Nicky the Pipe, a character from his book Rockabilly Road Trip. And then I'm like right there, and I'm pissed off and annoyed at him because I'm just like sitting there with a priest's collar, and it's just like, dude, you put me in there and I'm not like, puffing on a cigar, slugging whiskey, with like a show, like a can girl in my lap and twirling a 6-gun. It's just like, you can make me look cool. It's just like, oh, F you, buddy. But it turned out beautiful. But I panicked a little bit because I was like, oh no, people are going to think that this is a science fiction book. And he was like, no, relax. This is the 8th issue. People know that it's not a science fiction book.
People know by now.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
I even see an Umbrella Company Corporation logo here next to the words Tug.
Yes. Yeah. You can see there's all kind. There's mad crazy Easter eggs.
Oh, there's the Laughing Man. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
I'm buying it just for this cover now.
Right?
I'm going to have fun with this.
Oh, man. And what inspired him to do this was there was somebody who shall not be mentioned who is a high-ranking CG member who was like, yeah, dude, you like that cover, that painting, yeah, you could never do that.
Oh.
And Preston's one of those dudes where it's just like, oh, you want him to do something? Tell him that he can't.
Yeah.
And so he just knocked it out of the park with this thing. And and of course I was like, I went into panic mode a little bit, but then I was like, no, just do what you like. And he was like, okay, tell you what, I'm gonna do another cover that's going to be like what you thought it was going to be, which is the same scenario but set in the Old West.
There you go.
Like period correct,
I,
right?
I'm like, there will never be a second issue of Doc Salem because Preston's never going to be able to stop doing variant covers for everybody else.
No, there is, and right now I am currently writing the second half of the script for the Doc Salem, the Blood Hunt Doc Salem crossover.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, Simon Poitier and Preston were like, okay, it's like our books. It's like one is about a vampire assassin, the other one's about a reformed Victor Frankenstein who's become a monster hunter. It writes itself.
Yeah. Well, I told Preston I'd love to see him get together with Von Klaus and have somebody who hunts monsters up against somebody who heals monsters.
Right, so like Monster MD's like pulling Doc Salem's bullets out of like some werewolf's ass.
Yes, exactly. Like,
oh god, that's genius.
I've got to stop whoever's killing the monsters.
Right.
I've got to kill whoever's keeping these things alive.
Yeah.
Fight each other.
So they like my writing and they invited me aboard. And it's just been a blast because they're just like fun dudes that that are like great to work with, and so it's like they've sort of taken their sandboxes and put them together, invited me to come and play in that sandbox, and I am most appreciative.
We have one more Easter egg here that we think we may have found before I've got to sign off because I have to. I've got another show that I'm 4 minutes late for.
Oh, how could you? How could you? How could you do that to me? This is me.
I should just send him the link to this show and say, come in here and talk with us.
No, it's all good, dude. It's all good. I appreciate you having me on. I'm sorry if we've gone OT. I have a tendency to ramble.
I almost never go 2 shows back to back without putting an hour in between them.
Yeah.
And I put these back to back, and I was like, I should have maybe not done that, but because there's always a risk of having like about 20 minutes worth of conversation, and then you just kind of like fumble your way through it, and then there's the risk of like we could go on for another hour, no problem.
I know. Well, I could.
Well, we'll have you back so we can do that.
Well, thanks, dude. Thanks. This has definitely been fun. And Herrenberg says, I'm seeing AT in the lower right corner. Like, I don't know. I'm sure that's an Easter egg. I don't know what it's in reference to.
He didn't know if it was short for the AAT.
Which is?
Well, that's ass titty.
Oh, I figured it would be something filthy.
Yes. Yeah. That's Fraga. It's funny. I went dollar comic shopping a couple weeks ago, and I say it's no longer NCBD for me. It's DCBD. I hit the dollar bins on Wednesday, and I was showing what I bought, and I was like, had this thing called Stormchild. I'm like, I have no idea what Stormchild is. It came out in the 90s, and I had a guest on. I was like, I'm opening it facing me, and I'm taking it out, and I pulled it out like this. He's like, Fraga! I'm like, how can you tell by the back cover that? And the back cover was an original Black Flag advertisement.
Oh wow!
It was on the back of this, and it turned out that War Child was a Rob Liefeld deal because he was creating things by basically rolling Scrabble tiles out all the time.
Yeah, he was. But that's the thing that is something that one of the reasons why we gotta hope that our LLCs survive is that special experience of going in and just stumbling across something that you had, that you'd never even heard of.
I have, I've started. That's one of the reasons why I hit the dollar bins now, because I'll come back. I'll pick stuff that looks cool, but then I'll do a show and like, hey, look, I found stuff by Mike Barron. Hey, look, I found some things that Mike S. Miller was doing the inks on for Malibu. And I'm showing, all the things that, all these creators were doing before. And say,
that's great. That's
look what
awesome,
I found. Man. Dude, I would love to keep talking with you about Six Gun Gorilla.
But you got to go.
But I've got to go. You will be back, I certainly hope.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Once the project launches, everybody watching, everybody in the chat, Thank you so much for your time.
We got to have. We can go over tiers and goals and watch some money come into this thing. So Brian,
it's launching on the 12th.
That's 2 days. Be there,
2
folks.
days.
Sign up for hit the link in the description here. It'll take you right there, and it'll just roll over to the actual campaign if you're watching this on a replay late. Folks in the chat, appreciate you being here so much. I always say we don't have a show without you showing up. And as always,